There comes a time when we start noticing little changes in our parents, things we might have brushed off before, but now they linger in the back of our minds. Maybe it's the way they move a little slower these days, or how they forget. Small details that used to come so easily. And if you're like me, you've probably wondered, is this just part of getting older, or is it something more? It's not always easy to talk about, but recognizing the subtle signs in our aging parents can make all the difference in how we support them. Whether it's ensuring they get the right care, spending more meaningful time together, or simply understanding what they're going through. Being aware of these changes helps us respond with love and compassion. So today, let's talk about 5 subtle but critical signs that might indicate your parent is entering their final year. These aren't meant to scare you, but rather to prepare you so you can make the most of the time you have together. The first sign is a noticeable decline in energy and engagement. Now, we all slow down a bit as we age. That's natural. But if you see your parent losing interest in activities they once loved, or if they're sleeping much more than usual, it could be more than just fatigue. Maybe they used to light up when the grandkids visited, but now they seem withdrawn. Or perhaps they've stopped going to their weekly card game with friends. This kind of withdrawal isn't just about being tired. It's often the body's way of conserving energy as it begins to wind down. Now let's talk about the second sign, changes in eating habits. Have you noticed your parent picking at their food, eating significantly less, or even refusing meals altogether? It's common for appetite to decrease in the final stages of life. The body simply doesn't need as much fuel. You might also see weight loss that isn't tied to any specific illness. If they're no longer interested in their favorite dishes, or if eating seems like a chore, it's worth paying attention to. And here's something else to look for: increased confusion or disorientation. We all forget things now and then, but if your parents start struggling with simple tasks like remembering how to use the TV remote or getting lost in familiar places, it could signal a deeper shift. This isn't just about forgetfulness, it's about the mind and body slowly letting go. Now, these signs don't always mean the end is near, but they're important to recognize. Because when we notice them early, we can focus on what really matters, making sure our loved ones feel safe, cherished, and at peace. And there's more to discuss, like how changes in speech or social behavior can also be telling. But let's save that for the next part, where we'll go even deeper into understanding these signs and how to respond with grace and love. You might have noticed, as I have, that when our parents start to slow down, it's not just their bodies that change, it's the way they communicate too. Maybe they've always been the kind to tell long, winding stories, but lately their words come slower, or they trail off mid-sentence. Or perhaps they've stopped calling as often, and when they do, their voice just doesn't have the same energy it once did. This brings us to our third sign, changes in speech and communication. In the final stages of life, it's common for someone to speak less, to lose their train of thought more easily, or even to repeat themselves without realizing it. They might struggle to find the right words, or they may seem distant in conversations, as if they're somewhere else entirely. And sometimes they'll say things that surprise us, like mentioning loved ones who've passed on, almost as if they're seeing them again. These moments can be unsettling, but they're also deeply meaningful. It's as if the veil between this world and the next grows thinner, and our loved ones are catching glimpses of what's to come. Now, let's talk about the fourth sign, withdrawal from social connections. Have you noticed your parent turning down visits from friends or even family? Maybe they've stopped answering the phone as much, or they seem less interested in keeping up with old routines. This isn't about being rude or uncaring. It's often a natural process. As the body prepares for the end, the focus turns inward. Socializing can start to feel exhausting, and quiet solitude becomes more comforting. They might even say things like, "I just want to rest," or "I've had enough." It's hard to hear, but It's their way of telling us they're ready. And then there's the fifth sign, one that's easy to miss if we're not paying close attention: physical changes that go beyond normal aging. We're not just talking about wrinkles or a slower walk. These are deeper shifts. Their skin might become thinner, almost translucent, or take on a slightly bluish tint, especially in the hands and feet. Their breathing could become more irregular, with long pauses between breaths. And sometimes they'll sleep so deeply that it's hard to wake them. These are the body's quiet signals that it's beginning to shut down. Now, I know this isn't easy to talk about, but here's the thing. When we recognize these signs, we're given a gift. The gift of time. Time to hold their hand a little longer, to say the things we've always wanted to say, to make sure they know just how much they're loved. And in the next part, we'll talk about how to navigate these changes, how to respond with kindness, how to make their days as comfortable as possible, and how to find peace in the midst of it all. Because even in these final moments, there's beauty to be found. There's a certain kind of quiet that settles in when we realize time with our loved one is growing short. It's in these moments, whether we're sitting by their bedside, holding their hand, or simply watching them sleep, that we start to understand what really matters: the small things, the way their face still lights up just a little when they hear your voice, the way their hand squeezes yours, even if it's weaker than before. These are the gifts hidden in the hardest days. Now let's talk about how to navigate this time with grace. The first thing to remember is comfort becomes the priority. Pain management, proper bedding, even the temperature of the room, these details make all the difference. If they're struggling to eat, don't force it. Instead, offer small sips of water, ice chips, or their favorite broth. What matters most isn't the amount they consume, but that they feel cared for. And here's something we don't talk about enough: the power of presence. You don't always need to fill the silence with words. Sometimes just being there, reading to them, playing their favorite music, or even sitting quietly together is more comforting than anything you could say. They may drift in and out of awareness, but trust me, they know you're there. Love doesn't need perfect sentences to be understood. Now, let's address something equally important: caring for yourself. Watching a parent decline is heartbreaking, and it's easy to pour every bit of your energy into them until there's nothing left for you. But you can't pour from an empty cup. Take breaks when you need them. Accept help from family or friends. And allow yourself to feel whatever comes up: grief, guilt, even relief, without judgment. This journey is tender, and you deserve kindness too. Finally, listen for the unspoken. In these final days, your parent might say things that seem out of character or even cryptic. They might talk about seeing people who aren't there or mention places from their childhood. Meet these moments with openness, not correction. These are often signs of them beginning to transition, and your calm acceptance gives them permission to let go. So here's what I want you to take away. This isn't just about endings, it's about love in its purest form. The love that stays up late to keep watch. The love that lets go when it's time. The love that lingers long after the last breath. If you've walked this path with someone you love, I'd love to hear your story in the comments below. What moments brought you comfort? What wisdom would you share with others? Let's create a space where no one has to feel alone in this. And if this video resonated with you, don't forget to like and subscribe for more conversations like this one, because here we talk about the things that matter, not just the easy things, but the real ones. Until next time, remember, love doesn't end. It simply changes shape, and that's the most beautiful thing of all.